Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our College Credit Plus, or CCP for short, virtual information session. My name is Donald Bean, and I serve as the College Credit Plus Director here at the Kent State University. Let me begin by just saying thank you. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening and learn more about the College Credit Plus program. We recognize that schedules are really busy, your time is valuable, so we're going to do our best to honor that tonight by being as brief as possible, but also giving you all of the information you need regarding this great program and this great opportunity. So let me just give a quick overview of tonight's agenda. We're going to begin with a presentation on the what and the why of College Credit Plus. The presentation is going to provide an overview of the CCP program. It's going to talk about eligibility criteria to participate in the program, the types of courses students can take, how CCP courses will impact high school graduation requirements, and then some of the benefits and potential risks of participating in the program. After we go through that presentation, Sharon Schroeder from Youngstown State University will briefly discuss the admission process and requirements at YSU. So that she'll be talking about how you can take courses there. And then I'll briefly go through the process of being admitted and taking courses through Kent State University. And then I also want to just let you know there is a Q&A feature available here in the meeting. Feel free to ask your questions as we go, and we will do our best to answer them in real time. And the last thing I'll say before we get started is this webinar is being recorded, and access to the recording will be provided to all the schools participating this evening, which means you'll be able to access this again at a later date, if that will be helpful for you. All right, what is College Credit Plus? College Credit Plus is Ohio's dual credit program where students can earn high school and college credit at the same time. It is available to Ohio residents in grades 7 through 12 who are enrolled at a public or private high school or are homeschooled. It allows students to take a variety of courses at any public and participating private college in Ohio. And CCP courses can be held at the high school. You can take courses on a local college campus, or you can take courses online. And the program does permit students to take classes during the fall, spring, and or the summer semesters. So step one, how can you participate? The first question we need to answer is eligibility. A student is going to be eligible for the College Credit Plus program if they meet any one of the following criteria: obtains a remediation-free score on one of the standard assessment exams, has a cumulative unweighted high school grade point average of at least 3.0, has a cumulative unweighted high school grade point average of at least 2.75, but less than 3.0, but has also received an A or a B grade in a relevant high school course. And each college would designate how that would work on their end. Step two, so if you are eligible, the next question and the next step is how do I apply to my college of choice? So students need to apply for admission at each institution. So for instance, YSU is here with us this evening. I'm representing Kent State University. Students can apply to more than one institution each year and take courses. Now what's going to happen is admission is reviewed per the requirements of each college or university. So some colleges and universities may have different admission requirements. You're going to hear about Kent State and YSU's later this evening. College applications are going to include the permission slip for mature content, and they're also going to have a questionnaire about emotional maturity. We'll talk just a little bit more about this later in the presentation. But do keep in mind that colleges are going to have the final decision on the student's admission to their particular institution. So you have to be eligible, and then you need to apply to the college where you want to take courses. So once you've been admitted to the college or university of your choice, the next step is going to be course registration. The college where you've applied and been admitted is going to discuss course options with you, the student. That's going to be based on any sort of assessment scores or prerequisites or other requirements for those courses. Your school counselor can certainly help in this process. They're very, very helpful when it comes to understanding your high school graduation requirements and how courses at the college level can substitute and meet those high school requirements. So since this is a dual credit program where you get credit at high school and college, you can replace high school requirements with college courses. So for instance, if you take a college English course, that will replace one of your high school English graduation requirements. Another thing that high schools and colleges do is we develop 15 and credit hour pathways to help you see how the courses you take can apply to future majors or future degrees. So those are all going to be part of the registration process. Now the pathways, you're not limited to taking courses that are part of pathways. They simply exist as a guide and as a resource to help you choose the appropriate courses. Course eligibility rules. So you've been deemed eligible for the program, you've applied to the college of your choice and been admitted, and now you want to talk about what courses you can take. There are some rules that accompany this. First thing is your students have to complete their first 15 credits in level 1 courses. Now the first thing I'll say about this, because it says 15 credits, is to keep in mind that at the college level, courses are typically, there's exceptions, but typically 3 credits apiece. So if you take that college writing class, it's typically going to be 3 credits. So this means that typically your first 5 courses are going to be level 1 courses. These are courses that are deemed transferable. In the Ohio system, that's going to be what we would call part of the Ohio Transfer 36. Used to be the Ohio Transfer Module, or C-tag courses. These are courses in IT, computer science, anatomy and phys, foreign language, courses that are part of a technical certificate, courses that are part of one of those 15 or 30 credit hour pathways we discussed in the previous slide, and then also courses in study skills, academic, or career success. You can always also find the level courses on the college CCP website that you plan to attend. Those are going to be included there. Once you've completed your first 15 credits in level 1 courses, students can move on to level 2 courses, and these can be any courses that you meet the prerequisite for. Some more course eligibility rules, and these are non-allowable courses. So you're not going to be allowed to take private applied course, one-on-one instruction type courses. So for instance, like a performing art lesson, guitar or music or something to that effect, those would not be allowed. Courses with high fees. So I know, for instance, here at Kent State University at our Kent campus, we have a flight program that has some very expensive fees attendant to that. Those types of courses would not be allowed or permitted under CCP. Study abroad. Study abroad is where students can actually leave the country and have a study experience in another country. Those are disallowed in College Credit Plus. Physical education courses, so you can't replace your high school phys ed class with something at the college or university. Pass-fail graded courses, you're going to have to take courses that are graded in your traditional A to F grading scale. And you cannot take remedial courses or sectarian religious courses. Remedial courses would be courses at the college level that we would ask students to take to catch up in a subject so that they can take the college course. So for instance, if a student's not quite ready for college algebra, we may have them take some courses to ramp up to college algebra. That would be a remedial math course. Those type of courses are not going to be allowed. We would simply tell you to take those courses at your local high school. When it talks about sectarian or religious courses, that doesn't mean you can't take any type of religious course. For instance, at Kent State University, I imagine the same is true at YSU. We have some courses that are like survey of religion courses. Those are going to be allowed. What's not going to be allowed is something that's proselytizing or very sectarian. For instance, you're not going to be able to like attend a seminary or something of that nature under College Credit Plus. So how many courses can a student take? Students can be enrolled up to 30 credits per year. Now, like I said, most courses are 3 credits apiece, so you're typically talking about 10 courses, but we have to factor in your high school schedule. There's a calculation for this. So we start with the number 30, those 30 credits that are allowed, and you'll see we have to then factor in your high school courses. How do we do that? We take the number of your high school units So let's say you are taking 6 one-credit courses at your local high school. So you have 6 credits. We would take the number 6, and that's where you see high school units, and we would multiply that by 3. So 6 times 3 would be 18. What we would do is we would subtract 18 from 30, which would give us 12. And that means you would be eligible to take 12 credits through your local or whatever college or university you've applied and been admitted to. And the reason for this is so that students aren't trying to take a full high school schedule along with a full college schedule. And you don't have to remember all of this. Your high school counselor is going to help you figure this out down the line as you're scheduling your courses. Now, the maximum number of college credits a student can complete in the program is 120. I've not personally seen any student do that. It can be done, but it would require essentially replacing all of your high school credits with college credits at a very, very early age. Now, if a student enrolls in more than 30 credits for the year, you can do one of two things. You can drop the course prior to what we call the no-fault withdrawal date. So there's always a period of time when you've registered for a course where you can drop that course at no fault. And so that's one option. The second option would be you can pay for that course on your own, but at that point, since you've gone above the limits of College Credit Plus, you're actually not participating in the College Credit Plus program per se, and so you actually have to pay for that course at the traditional tuition rate, which is going to be higher than what the local schools pay for College Credit Plus courses. Some additional considerations you want to think about as you're considering College Credit Plus are grades. The final grades you earn in the college course you register to take are going to be the same grade on your high school transcript. So if you take a math with Kent State University and you earn a grade of C, that grade is also going to show on your high school transcript, and it's going to be factored into your, not only your college GPA, but it's going to be factored into your high school GPA. And so that can go into considerations for class rank. Grade weighting. It's important to know that high schools are required to weight all advanced standing courses in a subject area consistently. So if you're at a high school that weights grades and they are, you're going to receive, say, a 5.0 grade scale if you take an AP course, that also has to be true for College Credit Plus. Not all high schools weight grades. That would be a great question for your counselor if you're unsure. Some more additional considerations: selective service. So male students who are at least 18 years of age and Ohio residents are required to be registered with the selective service system. They're required to provide their selective service number to the public college or university within 30 days of their 18th birthday. And failure to submit this number will result in the student not being considered a College Credit Plus participant for that semester or term. And the student's going to be responsible then for any tuition, textbooks, or fees associated with the course or courses. Let's take a couple of minutes now to talk about some of the differences between high school and college. And these are general rules. And as I said earlier, there's always exceptions to rules. But in general, these are some good principles to consider. So when you think about study time at the high school level, the suggested required homework may be 1 to 3 hours per day. You may have a lot of that time built into your school day to do that work. The college level is typically going to be 2 to 3 hours of studying, reading for each hour of class. A 3-semester class, if you're on campus, or a 3-credit-hour class, if you're on campus, is typically 2.5 hours in instruction time face-to-face. So you would be adding that time on top of those 2.5 hours of instruction time. Knowledge acquisition: when you're in high school, information is typically provided in class. Your assignments are going to be very closely related to what you're being taught, and it's going to follow what's covered. At the college level, a lot of your knowledge acquisition comes out of class, and it's done in advance of any in-class discussion you might have. Tests: this is definitely something that can feel very different at the college level. In high school, oftentimes you're receiving tests each week, or perhaps at the end of a unit that you're being taught. This is typically going to be less frequent at the college level, and any test that you might have is usually going to be covering more material each time. It's not I don't want to say uncommon, but it's not impossible to have a class where you may only have a couple of tests and a final, and that be all of your grades for a college course. Speaking of grades, at high school, you're going to have a lot more of them. So you're going to have more quizzes, tests, homework assignments, etc. College level, you're just going to have fewer. And oftentimes there aren't homework assignments. Role of parents and guardians. And this one can be tough, I think, for parents sometimes. At the high school level, parents are encouraged to advocate, be involved, and work with teachers and counselors. At the college level, we definitely want you to be involved. We definitely want you to be a part of this with your child or your student, but your student has more responsibility. And at this point, when your student comes into a College Credit Plus program, you really have to take on more of a mentor or a support role. For instance, if a student's having trouble in a class at the college level, let's say at the high school level, you may have a parent-teacher conference where you're invited to come and talk to the teacher regarding your student's progress. You may have access to something like a progress book where you can see grades in real time. At the college level, that's not going to happen. You're not going to have access to your student's grades. Now, if your student is sharing that with you, you're going to have access to it, and they're welcome to do that if they're comfortable doing so. But you're certainly not going to be able to reach out to a faculty member and advocate on behalf of your child. And one reason for that is at the college level, we are bound by something called the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, what we call FERPA for short, and it really limits our ability to communicate with anybody other than the student. And when a College Credit Plus student enrolls in College Credit Plus, those same rules apply to them as they would, for a traditional college student. Accommodations, at the high school level, you're going to work with the high school to determine what assistance can be made regarding IEPs and 504 plans. At the college level, those accommodations do exist. They exist differently, but the student has to work directly with the college staff to determine if these accommodations are going to be needed and available to them. What does it mean to be college ready? Being college ready is certainly more than just being academically ready. We already discussed there are academic benchmarks that must be met in order to participate in this program. So arguably anybody who's admitted into the College Credit Plus program is academically ready. What I think I would argue is a more important consideration is this emotional and social maturity aspect of your student or your child. This is something you certainly want to consider as you're thinking about College Credit Plus, especially if you've never taken courses, and I would say especially so the younger the student is. If you're working with a student that you have to chase down to get homework assignments completed and turned in, College Credit Plus is really going to be a challenge for them, especially with a lot more students taking online classes, which require an additional level of maturity on the student's part. So another thing to factor in would be time management, organizational skills, because as we have already discussed, college is quite different than high school, and those things become just heightened at the college level. I will tell you that the majority of students who participate in the program do quite well, but I will also tell you that every semester we always have students that don't perform well. They are not the majority. They are certainly a minority of students, and at least in my experience, it almost always boils down to they just weren't socially mature enough or ready to handle the responsibilities of the course. I think they could do the course work. They're oftentimes not participating in the course itself and are just missing assignments and not being mature in that regard. The final thing I will say about this and being college ready, we talked earlier in the presentation about a maturity requirement in a questionnaire. And essentially what that means is you are going to be signing off that you are mature enough to take a college course and the content that may come with being in a college course. So keep in mind when you're taking a college course, the content could be more adult in nature. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I would say most courses aren't, but there is the potential for that. If you're in an online course or if you're coming to a campus, there's potential that you will be with adults and you will be having discussions with adults. So those are also things to consider. Now, that being said, let's talk about the benefits and let's really focus on this because College Credit Plus has a ton a ton of benefits. So first, you get to earn high school and college credits at the same time. You take that English class at the college, it counts at the high school for your English. Not only does it count, we are on semesters, which means if you take a course with us, and let's say it starts in August and it ends in December, that counts for a full year's worth of credit at the high school. So that's a great advantage. Gives you a head start on career planning, certificate completion, gives you the chance to experience college early and understand the expectations of being a college student. This is especially important if you plan to continue at the college level after high school. And I think as parents, I'm a parent with a CCP student myself, it gives us the opportunity to kind of walk with our students through those challenges while they're still home with us. And there can be a lot of benefits to that as well. You get more flexibility in taking courses that may interest you. A high school may not have all the options you want. By going through CCP, it may give you some more options you don't have otherwise. And then if you're working closely with your advisor, the sooner your student understands what they want to pursue when they graduate, the more that academic advisor can work with them to make sure that they're taking the right classes that will apply in that regard. And then the final thing I'll say, it's the last bullet point on the screen, it is free. So you have the opportunity to save a lot of money in tuition and textbook costs. Consequences for underperforming though. So keep this in mind, the program is free. However, you may be responsible for reimbursement if the student does not earn a passing grade in the course. So that would be an F. D's and above would be a passing grade. That would be an F. Or the student withdraws after the no fault deadline. As I said, when a student registers for a course, there's always a short period of time where they can drop the course at zero consequence. After that drop date, they would have to withdraw from the course. A withdraw goes on their permanent record as a grade of W. It does not impact their GPA, but you may have to pay for the course. You'll see there's a note that does say that if a student is considered economically disadvantaged, they cannot be asked to reimburse the cost of the course or courses. Some more potential consequences of underperforming. There is something called college credit plus probation. So a student is going to be placed on probation if they earn less than a cumulative 2.0 GPA in their CCP courses, or they withdraw from 2 or more courses in one academic term. Now, if a student is placed on probation, that student is going to have some limitations. They're only going to be able to enroll in one college credit plus course for one college term. So maybe that student had 3 courses in the fall semester. Their performance places them in probation. Going into the spring semester, they're only going to be eligible to enroll in 1 course. They're not going to be eligible to enroll in a college course in the same subject. So if you received a grade of D, F, or what else is listed here, or an equivalent grade, let's say in English, that next semester, you're not going to be able to enroll in an English course. If students on CCP probation do not increase their GPA to a 2.0 or above, their CCP GPA to a 2.0 or above during the probation term, they'll be placed on CCP dismissal. And since students can potentially be taking courses at multiple institutions each semester, this is something that your high school counselor can work with you on regarding your GPA. Now, if a student is put into college credit plus dismissal, this is going to happen if they do not raise that their grade during the probation term. That's when you can be dismissed. While on dismissal, you're not going to be allowed to enroll in any college credit plus courses. You can, however, request an appeal to be reinstated into the program. So how do appeals work for underperformance? So CCP probation, you can appeal to take a course in the same subject in which they previously earned a non-passing grade. So if, back to our example, if you had that low performing grade in English, you can appeal to take another course in English the following semester. With dismissal, within 5 days of being dismissed, the student may submit an appeal to the secondary school, that would be your high school, to appeal your dismissal, or the student may appeal at the end of the dismissal semester. And you'll see that each school district is responsible for having a policy describing this process for appeals. Some more potential consequences for underperforming. So after your high school graduation, keep in mind that the grades you've earned in the College Credit Plus program are going to remain on your college transcripts permanently. So if you did really underperform and you had a grade of F or multiple grades of F, those are going to stick with you on your college transcript as you continue down the line, whether at that school or if you transfer to another school and have to have that transcript sent. If a student fails or withdraw too often, it can also potentially impact your future financial aid. And what will happen is it can potentially trigger something called satisfactory academic progress, which is a federal process for federal financial aid. What are the expenses for College Credit Plus? Option A, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Option A essentially says you can choose to self-pay at the standard rate of tuition fees and textbooks. I don't know why students would do this. Potentially, the only reason I can think of is this next bullet point is you can choose to only have college credit and have it not impact your high school transcript. But being that very few people elect that option, let's skip right to option B, which is going to be the typical or default option. So option B, which is standard, is going to be where all course tuition, fees, and textbooks will be paid by the state of Ohio. How is this paid? It's paid by the school's foundation funds and the college's funds. So essentially, both the high school and the public universities and or the private universities are helping to pay for this. And under this option, you're earning dual credit. So you're earning credit at the college level, and it also must be transcribed at the high school level. Support services. So if you're in the CCP program, you're going to receive support from both the high school and the college. Your high school counselor is going to continue to provide assistance just as they would if you were not in the CCP program. You're going to be assigned a college advisor who is going to help talk to you about your goals. They're going to talk to you about your future plans, and they're going to help you select courses accordingly. And then colleges provide the same academic supports to CCP students that we would to our traditional students. So things that if our traditional students have access to tutoring, to library, advising, etc., that's going to be extended to our CCP students as well. Athletic eligibility. So definitely, and this is where I always refer back to the school counselors. You need to know the OHSAA requirements. Your counselors are going to be much better versed on this than we are at the college level. One really important thing here, though, is know that your summer, if you elect to take a summer CCP course, and we'll talk about why you may not want to do that, but if you do elect to take a summer course, it's not going to count towards your athletic eligibility. Real quick side note on summer courses. Sometimes we'll have students that come to us and say, I'm really busy fall, spring. I'd like to take a summer course because I think I'll be more committed to it or have more time to focus. That could be true, and that could be a great option for you. I'll speak for Kent State. We typically don't encourage that, especially of first time CCP students, because summer terms are much, much faster. So a typical fall or spring semester is going to be about 16 weeks in length. A summer semester at Kent State could be as short as 8 weeks or go all the way down to 3 weeks in length, but you're doing the same amount of work. So if that's your first exposure to a college course, it is really, really brutal. And so we don't typically recommend it. Now, if you've been successful in taking College Credit Plus courses in the fall or spring semesters and you feel ready to tackle a summer course, that can be a good option, but it's good to know that. Will your CCP courses transfer? Yes, I think that's a pretty fair answer in short, is to say yes. And that's because we really strive to make sure you're taking the appropriate courses. Especially when you're taking your general education courses, what we call those level 1 courses, those are going to absolutely be transferable, especially between Ohio institutions, Ohio colleges and universities. What we typically recommend is if you know where you want to go, it's always good to speak to that college or university in advance and just ask them, because each college or university is going to dictate how the credits transfer in to their institution, and they're going to be able to tell you exactly how those courses should transfer in. And there can be a difference between what we would say transferability of a course and what I would say is applicability of a course. It could be that you are a student that has, let's say you've earned an associate degree, an associate of arts, you have 60 credits, but then you decide you want to pursue a bachelor in education, you want to be an early childhood education teacher. What can happen if you're not intentional early on is you can find that a lot of the credits you have earned, they do in fact transfer to the next institution, but they're not applicable to the degree. And that's because you've taken courses that in hindsight weren't going to be very beneficial, and you should have chosen a different course, and you may be going into a program that doesn't have room for electives. So a lot of those extra courses you're bringing over just don't really have a spot to plug into with that degree program. Most programs do have electives, and typically you're going to be okay, but I think it's really important to focus on that advising piece and have some open and candid conversations with your academic advisor regarding your future goals so they can really help you map out the best plan. And regarding out-of-state schools or private schools, you always want to check with them about transferability. All right, let's talk about deadlines. So your first step when we talk about applying for the program is you need to do something called an intent to participate. This is step one. This is before you apply to your colleges or universities. I mean, you can apply to the college or university at the same time, but this is really something you want to focus on, and that is give this intent to participate form back to your school counselor by April 1st. And if you're thinking, well, how do I get this form? Your school counselors are going to be able to provide this to you. So your school counselor will provide this to you. You are essentially letting them know that you are interested in the program for the next school year. It doesn't obligate you to take courses. It just puts you on their list of a possibility. That's a requirement, and that's step one. April 1st is your deadline for that. If the school you plan to attend has testing requirements, you're going to want to check those dates. I can speak for Kent State. We don't require the ACT or the SAT for admission. We will use scores from the ACT or SAT for admission, but they're not required. We'll talk a little bit about that a little more when we talk about admission requirements. And then semester deadlines. So when you're thinking about applying to the college of your choice, summer deadline is usually going to be earlier because those courses start in May. And then you'll have a fall application deadline and a spring application deadline. We'll talk about those in a couple of minutes. So your next step would be figuring out where you want to take your courses. Your local high school can talk to you about courses that are available on your local campuses. I think YSU and Kent State have courses available at most, if not all, of the institutions in this call tonight. We also would offer courses online, and if you're willing to drive, you could come to one of our campuses. So your next step will be finding out those deadlines. We're going to talk about those in a couple of minutes. Regardless of where you want to attend, though, do your intent to participate form and get that back to your school counselor by next April 1. Then you'll apply to admission of the college of your choice. I believe we will come to the local schools, and we typically do an application day at all of the local schools involved on this meeting tonight. So if you're paying attention with your to announcements and paying attention to your school counselors, they'll let you know when we'll be coming to your campus and doing some of that for you. And at this point, I'm going to pause for questions. Remember, you can use that Q&A function if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Sharon Schroeder from YSU. She's going to talk to us about the admission requirements there. Sharon, are you ready?
I am. Good evening. Let me share my screen. Make sure everybody can just see. I'm not going to show a, that's not the right one. I'm not going to show the entire PowerPoint for us. Rather, I'm just going to put our contact information up on the screen for you. So that way you have it. And then in the chat feature, I'm going to drop a link to our brochure, which is housed on our website. You'll be able, when you access the link, you should be able to download that brochure to whichever device that you're using so that you can read through it later at your convenience. All the information I'm going to discuss is in that brochure, but just to give you some general information about our program, in terms of meeting the admission requirements for YSU's program, we have 3 pathways for students to be both state eligible and admissible to YSU. The first is test optional. Students only need to have a high school cumulative unweighted GPA of 3.0 and a core high school GPA of 2.0. Next is test required for students who don't have the 3.0 high school GPA, but they have at least a 2.0 high school GPA. We can consider them state eligible and admissible to our program, provided they meet a college readiness benchmark from the state. And that could be an ACT or an SAT score. Or for students who haven't taken the ACT or the SAT, we have a test called AccuPlacer. It's a reading test that they can take for free. And it can be done either at the high school, or students can come to our office, or we can proctor the test with the students virtually from home to be able to qualify then for the program. If you're a 7th or 8th grade student, you're going to use the test required option to qualify for the program, since you don't technically have a high school GPA yet. But we'll use your middle school classes and any work that you have done for high school credit so far to determine your GPA for the program. And then finally, we have what we call the CCP transfer policy. This is for students who have already completed courses through another college or university successfully, and they can be just admitted to our program by having a high school cumulative unweighted GPA of a 2.75, the core GPA of a 2.0, and then the college GPA of a 2.0. Now, the core GPA may have thrown you a bit. That is not usually a familiar term with most, but a core GPA is when at YSU, we will recalculate the student's grade point average to include only classes in math, English, science, social studies, and any foreign language classes that they've taken for high school credit to determine what the core GPA is. So the AccuPlacer test, again, that we can offer for students who need to take that is a free test, and you can contact our office. The number is on the screen to make an appointment if you like to test on campus or virtually with a member of our staff. If you do receive a voicemail, please allow up to 2 business days for a return phone call. Testing is open now, so you can call at any time. Just please remember that when you complete the AccuPlacer test, it does not automatically admit you to the CCP program. You still have to complete an online application. And then the use of using that AccuPlacer reading test for admission is not the same as course placement. Some classes do require certain scores in order to take them. And when a student meets with their YSU academic advisor, they'll review with them what scores are needed and what they may need to do, any type of testing for the classes that they're interested in taking. Once you know that you're eligible and you wish to start your YSU application, you're going to submit your letter of intent to your school's counselor or coordinator, CCP coordinator, by that April 1st deadline. That's very important. You're going to meet with your school counselor, of course, to discuss course options and ensure that they're aligning with your high school graduation requirements if needed. And then you're going to decide where you want to take your classes, at the high school if it's offered, online, on campus, or a combination. You'll then complete the YSU CCP application online for both new and continuing students. We have a form for that. And then many of schools will host a CCP application day where our staff will come down to the school and work with the students to submit the application online. So I would check with your school counselor or CCP coordinator first to see if they have that date scheduled with us before you have the student complete the application. Again, the brochure, I'll put a link in the chat so that you can access that. We encourage you to read through it just to make sure that the YSU program will be a good fit for your student. And if you feel that it is, then once you complete the online application, we will need a high school transcript, a parent consent form, a campus education plan for students who are interested in taking classes on campus or online, and any college transcripts if you've taken CCP courses at any other college or universities while you've been in high school or middle school. The deadline to apply for summer term is March 14th. For fall's term, it is April 15th. And for spring, this would be spring 2026, the deadline is October 31st. If you do happen to use ACT or SAT scores to qualify, there are deadlines of when the last test date is that we can take those, and those will be in the brochure for you to review. Again, when it comes to taking classes, admission is different from course placement. It's kind of a three-step process for all of us. First, you have to be eligible, then we have to be able to admit you, and then you have to do the necessary steps for whichever classes that you want to take, including taking any course placement tests that might be needed. Again, when you meet with your YSU academic advisor to discuss course options, they'll review with you if you need to do any course placement testing and what that looks like. If you're accepted into our program, you'll receive an acceptance packet in the mail that contains your YSU student ID and an enrollment instructions for how to activate your YSU email account. Once you receive that packet, any information regarding our program that goes to the student is going to go directly to their YSU email. So it's really important that you check it regularly, even over the summer. A lot of things may happen over the summer. And if you don't check your email because it's summer vacation, right, then you may miss out on deadlines and opportunities to be able to get into the classes that you want for fall semester, especially. Some additional benefits to being a YSU CCP student. We do offer all of our students free tickets to any home athletic event. If you're 16 or older, you can use our campus rec center as long as we have a signed parental waiver on file. For students who apply to YSU as an incoming student after high school, YSU does waive the $45 college application fee for students who successfully complete classes at YSU under CCP. And those classes could be at the high school, online, or on campus. It doesn't matter where the class was taken. As a YSU CCP student, if you complete 24 hours or more in our program, you can register early as an incoming student in the spring of your senior year. Most of our incoming students don't start registering until June, and you could have the opportunity to do that early in April. And then we also have students, give students the opportunity to participate in our YSU CCP in Honors program that is done through the Socklove YSU Honors Program College. Our brochure has more information on that, so I'd encourage you to read about it. So again, if you can read through the brochure, our contact information is on the screen. Any questions you have about the process, please reach out. There's a lot. Mr. Bean just gave you a lot of information about this program, and there's a lot of different layers to it, and it can be confusing, but we're all here to help you to make sure that you or your student is doing the necessary steps to ensure that they can register for the type of classes that they want. So with that, I'll take any questions as well, and I'll turn it back over to Dawn.
Thanks, Sharon. So just very briefly, I want to talk about the Kent State University admission requirements, and this would pertain to your local campuses at East Liverpool, Salem, or any campus, including the Kent campus. And before I do this, I have had a couple of folks reach out, and some of your counselors had wanted us to remind you that the intent to participate form for next year is not yet available, and to not worry about that just yet, because they'll make sure that that is provided to you when it does become available. So don't everybody knock on their door tomorrow and ask for that form. It's not yet available. I will also say, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature. You can ask your questions anonymously. So if you're a little nervous about asking your own question, don't do that. Don't feel that way, because you can ask anonymously, and we are happy to help. All right, Kent State University. So just a little bit about us. Kent State University is the largest and the highest ranking academic public university in Northeast Ohio. We have locations all over Northeast Ohio. You can see our geographical footprint here. It's roughly the size of the state of Connecticut. We have approximately 33,000 students across all of our campuses. We have roughly 370 majors that students can choose from if they decide to continue with us. So we do feel that if you're coming to us, you're getting a quality education. How does our process work? As I said, step one is to complete your intent to participate form. Give that back to your school counselor. Whether or not you think, if you think at all you're going to participate in the program, do this form. It doesn't obligate you to take any courses. But if you don't do the form, it can make participating in the program a lot more complicated. So start there. Step two for Kent State is really to ask a simple question, and that is, are you a new student or are you a returning student? This is really important. And the question really becomes this: did you enroll in a course during the 2024-25 school year? That would be this school year now. Because if you did take a course this academic year, your process is going to be different than if you have not taken a course. Let's start with students who would be brand new. These are students who have not taken a course this academic year. You will be responsible for completing the online CCP application. You'll see our deadlines are listed here: April 15th for summer, June 1st for fall. You'll then complete a CCP permission form. We'll request an official copy of your high school transcript, and then we will look at that transcript to see if you are college ready. If you don't meet the college readiness requirements based on your GPA, or you're a middle school student and you do not yet have a high school GPA, then what we will do is we will come to your high school and we will administer something called the AccuPlacer test. That test is free of charge. It's somewhat similar to like an ACT test. There's a reading comprehension test and a writing test, but they are not timed. And so I feel like they're a little less stressful than if you're having to take an ACT test. Now, if you are a returning student, so if you're a student who is taking a course this academic year with Kent State University, it's a very different process. You do not need to reapply, so you don't have to do that online application again. You simply need to check your Kent State email, because you will receive something called a continuation form via your Kent State email. And it's going to ask you 3 simple questions. Are you still a student at your high school? Yes or no? Is your expected graduation date still the one you gave us when you first applied? And will you be continuing the program the next academic year? If you answer yes to all of those, you are good to go. If you answer no to any of them, we may have to get a transcript and do some verification, but you still do not have to complete the application. Step 3, once you've been admitted, you've gone through the application process, or you've completed the continuation form, we are going to connect you with an academic advisor. You'll receive an email to your Kent email address. And so just as Sharon said, checking your email is vitally important. You will meet with your academic advisor to talk about your goals, to talk about potential courses. These appointments can be done in person. They can be done on campus. It's really going to be driven by your preferences. Your counselor, your academic advisor is going to help you schedule your courses, and then you're going to go back to your school counselor to talk about your options and make any necessary changes if that's something that needs to be done. And with that, that concludes the admissions process for Kent State University. We will, as I said, be coming to each of your high schools to help with the application process, probably early in the spring. But for now, what we're going to do is we'll just hang out for a couple of minutes and answer any questions you might have.